I think Derek finally got it right this time.
Yes!
It only took him
A year and a half.
We're on 41 episodes now.
Year and a
We're on
half.
the 41st episode. 41st episode of City Talk Fall River. Special Friday the 13th episode.
Oh, that's right. It's Friday the 13th.
Based on the fact that I don't know. I know Derek and I are going to be at the citywide cleanup. Where will you be at the citywide cleanup tomorrow? Will you be citywide cleaning up, or will you be with the children? And
I have no idea yet.
She will be the
Well,
mom.
we have grandchildren this weekend for sure.
All right.
But it's a matter of, do we take them, or what kind of mood are they in?
Nikki's and her daughters joined us on many cleanup, but so citywide cleanup will be tomorrow. Angels Anonymous, the group that Derek and I are a part of, will be down at the Danforth Street, right?
Danforth Street.
Yeah, Danforth Street, doing some cleaning up and maybe some other spots around the city as well, if we ever so inclined. So
If we're efficient in our cleaning abilities, we will move to other sections. And
yeah, I mean, if you want to just go like that.
Yeah.
But at any rate, we definitely had an interesting week, and I'll tell you this right now: we were supposed to open up at 9. It's 9:18 right now. We're supposed to open up this podcast at 9, but yours truly, your host, your person here, Trot Lee, was asleep because he was up till about 4 a.m. listening to the ordinance meeting, and also, yeah. I did my dishes, everybody. I just want to make a public announcement. Yes.
I am going to vouch for that.
Yes.
I don't think anyone's ever seen the kitchen that clean.
Yeah, and not only this is a very important announcement. Not only have I cleaned my or washed my dishes this morning, but I also wiped down the counters and stove as well. So if anyone's out there that really cares about topics of the city, they now know that I cleaned my kitchen, which is a very important topic in this show.
What about the cast iron pan?
And the cast iron pan is all cleaned up as well. Everything's done, Derek.
Nice.
No, but seriously, all jokes aside, we are late because of those reasons, though, because I was up watching that ordinance meeting. And anybody who watched the city council meeting and the committee on finance meeting will probably know I was there as well. We had a front row seat to that. I don't know where to begin. I want to, you know what? There was a part of me, Derek, that wanted to just go with like what the council technically did at both meetings. You know, what they voted for. He just gave me a big 0 sign. What they voted for, topics that were discussed, and be real technical about it. But I mean, obviously, there was just a lot of inserted, what I would label, like you've labeled before, theatrics that were going on. But you know, in truth, they had a meeting on Tuesday, city council meeting and a committee on finance meeting, and there was a large group. Yeah, sneeze it out, man.
It's gonna happen.
Sneeze it.
It's my allergies. It's just
Sneeze
gonna
it.
happen. Once
You
it
want some
happens,
tissues? I got some
forget
tissues.
about it.
All right.
I'm
You want to grab us some tissues?
You got it.
Yeah.
I have mics.
The council, city hall had about 50 to 60 people on the outside of the building supporting their union, which again, very well within their rights to do. Nothing wrong with that at all. They're out there. I had a conversation with some of them. They were telling me about where the position they feel the mayor is in, as far as Mayor Correa goes, who they feel they're very confident that they have a case against him. They gave me a little bit of a timeline and what happened in the meetings and what was demanded, what were the concessions that were demanded in those meetings. Very, very small pieces of information. I didn't get everything. I didn't have time really to ask the questions I wanted to ask because I wanted to get inside to get to the meeting. But ultimately, I was told by a couple of people that were standing outside in the union that Jazel initially wanted a 30% pay cut. And then when the union said, no, we just want to keep everything the way it is. And then Jazel, I guess, came back with a couple of more requests pertaining to salary cuts. And the union within their rights said, no, we want to keep everything the way it is. And, we're the best option and that kind of thing. And that's when Jazel, and again, I'm not, this is just me. This is me from what I was received from the people outside. That Jazel just kind of went about his own business and got the private companies involved because he just was done with them. So yeah.
So if I'm hearing you correctly,
Yep.
and this whole back and forth that went, it was that Jazel requested something. The union basically said, I ain't hearing it. We're keeping everything the way it is. Jazel come back with something else. Union's like, I ain't budging.
Mhm.
Jazel calls impasse. Union starts crying. Is that?
I mean, I don't want to go with because again, I'm not going to be. I'm going to try to be as respectful to both sides as possible.
The union had a problem with him with the
Yeah.
impasse. Okay.
And there's a legal battle going on. So who's to say like that they're wrong yet until we find that out, you know? So we really are going to see all of this because the storyline expanded once the council meetings opened up. Not just in regards to how the city council is performed in that meeting, but also Jazel had some key words about he said he can't give too much. He can't give too much information.
Right.
But people were concerned. Councilor, I want to say, Councilor Ponte and Councilor, obviously, Ray Mitchell, who's a big supporter of the union. Councilor Steve Camara, big supporter of the union. All these people kept saying, you know, Mayor Correa, if you don't win this battle, this changes the whole landscape of our decision making here. Which Jazel, he was very confident. He said, even if things don't work out for us, we have a contingency plan in place that we can't talk about right now. That we're going to be fine either way. He made it look like no matter what the decision was of this labor dispute, that they were going to be in good position. Now, again, we're taking a lot on value. We're taking a lot on face value with Jazel's words.
Right.
There's nothing that we can put our hands on as we should expect right now because there is a legal debate going on. Go ahead.
What I believe it is, and I've said it for a little while now, is not one employee has received a pink slip. So with privatization, if nobody was losing their jobs, let's just say they were all being moved within the DCM.
Right.
There's no lawsuit to be had.
You know, you made a great point
There's
too. 'Cause
no
he
lawsuit
did
to be
say-
had.
He did say in that meeting, I'm still working on keeping 22 jobs.
Because here's the thing, for years we've talked about buildings and grounds, right? And how the properties that the city owns, like the schools that were up for sale or like the armory, those buildings weren't being taken care of. Like, I feel like nobody listens to people when they talk in the seats, but I can recall hearing, we need a bigger buildings and grounds division. We need to have our properties taken care of. They need to be sold. They need to be fixed. They need to keep up, to be maintained, you know?
Mhm.
So as soon as they made this new division, the buildings and grounds division, I was confident that we weren't going to lose any employees due to privatization, because we've heard Ken Pacheco say we had overtime picking up the yard waste because there were other jobs the guys had to do. I don't have enough of employees to get the jobs. He blatantly said he was fine with privatization. He didn't want to lose the employees.
Right.
So that tells me we're not losing any employees. So ultimately, are the Teamsters protesting for nothing? If the employees are not losing their jobs, what the hell are they protesting? That's my confusion with it. I could see if pink slips were given or if jobs weren't promised, but how the hell does anybody know what's going to happen?
I just, I think that you brought up a point too in response to that on Facebook about maybe 2 days ago. If there's a significant savings in privatizing due to the loss of the pensions and the you know, all those things, if you keep those workers on and spread them into other departments, then is there really a savings
Exactly.
in regards to that?
Yeah, but nobody's asking that question. They're only concerned with employee jobs. That's all they're worried about, is
I
whether or
know.
not people lose their jobs.
I really, that was what I got. That's what I took away from at the ordinance. I'm not at the ordinance meeting. I'm sorry. At the finance meeting and the regular city council meeting. It was very unfortunate that there was such an agenda by the council to I don't know, have things their way, I guess, with the union, and that they, not all of them, not every counselor, by the way, but just the main ones that we got to hear from, for the most part, between Cabaceres, Ray Mitchell, Steve Camara, mostly. That were mostly like with Rich Cabaceres, Council Cabaceres. His questions were pointed at the administration and at the mayor to try to make them either look bad or sound like they've been unethical or out of ordinance or all these different things.
All of the above.
Right. It seemed to me, and it seemed to like a lot of people, not just myself, because I was in the crowd. The crowd, was definitely responding. He was talking a lot about, is the mayor going to take a pay cut? Has he already done this? There was a lot of it. There was a lot of talk in that area that wasn't at that point necessary. So I felt as though it was agenda driven more so than anything. And then, and Joe Camara and they just can't help themselves. They have to go back and forth.
Awful.
Right.
It's like they're brothers. And they just can't get along.
I will say this: I've sided more on Joe Camara's side than anybody's when it comes to these little disputes. I just don't know if maybe they're productive. You know what I mean? I don't know.
He needs to tone it back. Like I haven't liked when he the day where he said, I have a yard. Should I own a home? Should I abstain too? Like, I don't like that. Even though I'm not fond of Rich Cabaceres, it's still inappropriate as a city councilor.
We gotta keep it moving right now.
Right.
We got a lot of topics to keep in point. Now, I will say this: I'm sorry, Jen.
No, go ahead.
Derek. But of the councilors so far, Joe Camara, in my opinion, what I said, Derek.
No, but that's okay.
I'm trying to figure out. Never mind. Go ahead.
Of the councilors so far, I said Derek. First I said Jay, then I said Derek.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Of the council so far, I believe that Joe Camara has been performing very well overall. I mean, how he votes, the topics that he's bringing up. I think there's that other piece where he has to get some digs in at some of these other councilors, and it is what it is. But I do think overall, I've appreciated his positions on all the topics. So
I was just gonna say, I agree with that. Personally, I say if I were at the meeting and I was sitting in Joe's seat, I'm not so sure I would be able to contain it. But that's where it goes to the city council president, Kadeem, that's his responsibility. He should have cut that out a long time ago. And if everybody watching and everybody in the seats, in the audience, we'll call them, can see the conversation taking place is inappropriate, why isn't it being stopped by, we're sitting here stopping, clapping constantly through the entire meeting. Folks, please. But you're not stopping a city councilor who's badgering, who's literally trying to badger people in conversation. It's so foolish.
What there was kind of 2 points there was 2 things in that meeting that kind of really bothered. Well, 3. You had a set of counselors that were, like you said, they were kind of, you had Councilor Cabaceres, who's really kind of going, really making people look very bad, or in trying to really pull out things on the administration to make them look bad. Okay. You have Joe, who I will say he does make great points when he's talking about a certain thing or something that they're going to vote on. He brings up very valid questions, things when they're in finance. He asks really good things. When he's in subcommittee meetings, he will bring up good questions, stuff like that. Then you have the side of Joe where he's the 25-year veteran, and you have the rookie right on the side of you, and you know how to do it efficiently, and he doesn't, and you're just gonna kind of haze him, for lack of a better term. Is it comical? It can be, but it does get to a point where it gets a little like, all right, we understand what you're trying to do.
I don't think that anything that he's doing, to me personally, is necessarily wrong, I hope that in the long run they can end up being colleagues all the way, because I just don't want Sean Kadeem or Rich Cabaceres to vote on something in spite of, because they have a beef with another councilor. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's already happening, so they shouldn't be sitting there. That's where, I really didn't have an opinion on Sean Kadeem. You guys know that. It was kind of like on the fence with him. But at this point, if you can't do your job, then just give it up. Like, we talk again, going about the decorum thing. He spends so much time talking about 22 windows. Listen, we can't do anything about it. So for him to get off the stand and then go sit in a seat and spend 20 minutes talking about windows and come out with a comment and say, let's give the audience what they're looking for. What the hell is that?
Get the people what they want.
Yeah, give the people what they want, except we can't clap.
The other thing that really kind of bothered me about that meeting, and now we're already past finance, now we're into the actual city council meeting, was the ordinance, was, I believe they referred to it as Resolution 13, where they, go figure, Resolution 13, spoken on the 13th day. But no, we are, when they were trying to put some power into it that they know that they don't have. And that really kind of, I mean, regardless of who did it, it's just a part of the council. It never existed. It doesn't exist. You can't put it into motion if you don't have that power. Was the vote ceremonial? Yeah, pretty much. That's exactly what it was. But people are trying to say, no, it's not ceremonial. It means something. No, it doesn't,
No, it
because you have, ultimately at the end of the day, what you are going to vote on for that meant nothing.
Now, Derek right now is talking about a portion of the, believe it was the Committee on Finance. No, it wasn't. It was the regular council.
It was immediately after the Teamsters president or
Yeah. So it was the regular council. It was right around that point where during the Finance Committee meeting, Jazel Correa, which I think it was an interesting move on his part to tell them, hey, look, if you don't want me to do the negotiating, then my alternative is to put it in your hands. And then there was a discussion on whether or not, the council should be a part of, the labor negotiation meetings and things like that. And even Jazel used the word ceremonial. You can have a ceremonial vote if you'd like. And when it transitioned into the regular meeting, and after the union person had their time to talk to them with his lawyer, Ray Mitchell and Steve Camara got very, very involved in trying to say, oh, well, since the mayor made this suggestion, I think we should. And then they started to try to pass resolutions to, first it was to just give the mayor their opinion as to whether or not they want to privatize. And then the discussion dragged on into amendments to this resolution of, with Steve Camara, you could see it in his eyes. He just saw an opportunity to try to, gain more power. And he was like, oh, well, we should be able to be involved in these negotiations. We should have 4 city councilors and administrators and this, that, and the other. And
the council president can choose who they.
Did you hear?
Yes.
But did you hear Steve Camara call into Bob Correa's show the other day?
No.
Well, he called into the show and he mentioned that there's 4 people that they would like to have doing this with the mayor. And 3 names were mentioned when Kadeem as one of them, himself, and Ray Mitchell.
Yep. Go figure.
So here's the thing. Ray Mitchell and Steve Camara have both outwardly in meetings stated that they are in support of union.
Yep.
So bottom line is,
They shouldn't be on that committee.
for one thing, I don't care what the mayor said to them. They don't have that authority. And unless someone shows me that they do have the authority, even if the mayor goes up there during a finance meeting and says, hey, you guys, here's a suggestion, do this. It doesn't mean that you have the power to go over the charter or anything like that to do these things. If you want to make these changes have to come as in a charter, if I'm not mistaken. So, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm wrong.
I'm going to tell you, our ordinances are so left, and I really believe they can just be used for whatever
they want.
Whatever they want.
So we see Steve Camara and Ray Mitchell get involved in that. But let's just say hypothetically that we could have councilors chosen to be a part of these labor contract disputes and things like that. Do you think that a counselor who's outwardly said before even walking into a store that they're not going to go to this store because they don't have a union.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that Fall River is going to get the best deal?
Not at all. Do you think they're even going to want to
Hypothetically
make the
speaking.
deal? Do you even think they're going to want to make the deal?
Right.
What private company is going to want to come in and even discuss anything with them three as they're publicly backing the union?
Well, Nikki, I'm not even talking about the private company. I'm talking about if
And I
there
won't
was a
say it's-
union.
Kadeem hasn't really publicly backed the union. He's been more of,
As a matter of fact, he
So it's
said
the
that he
other two.
supports privatizing.
so it's.
He
the
said it
other
in the
two.
ordinance meeting, the Committee on Ordinances and Legislation, just recently, that he does support privatizing. So as far as sanitation, I'm assuming not other entities. But bottom line is, though, if you have two counselors that have outwardly said it, and you have one, if Cabaceres was ever a part of it, who outwardly shows that he's in support of unions, then do you think that that the city of Fall River is going to get the best deal for itself with them representing you in the labor contracts dispute?
No way.
In passing, but like we're already at a disadvantage when you have a person going to the negotiating table that says they're in support of union.
Mhm.
You're already at a disadvantage. That means that no matter what this union says, they're going to get the contract they want.
Right.
Or at least that's the impression I get. I don't know what you get, but there's no way they can say because especially since if you're paying attention to these meetings and how much effort there is in keeping everything the way it is by some of these counselors, you'll know that they'll literally just belly up and give anybody anything they want if they're in a union, if they feel as though there's a political advantage to keeping this union in power.
Where was Ray Mitchell with all this when they instituted pay as you throw?
Well, that's something you brought up, on many occasions
Yeah.
to him. Yeah.
Where was he and Linda and, all these people who were so gung-ho about making sure that, the residents of Fall River are getting the best deal and that we're not being screwed over, but you guys allowed pay as you throw 2 years in a row.
They let
You
the fee go
allowed
on top of
a
it.
monthly trash fee in addition to pay as you
Right.
throw. And nobody ever said, we need to discuss this. How come we weren't in that meeting? How come we didn't do anything about this? How come we, baloney? It's because that generated revenue. That's
No
why.
unions were no
They're
union-
for it.
Well, no union were in jeopardy
Right.
either.
Well, the whole thing they were saying the union would be in jeopardy without those fees.
Yes.
So we have a history
Right.
of our city councilors who are still who've been city councilors for a while voting in favor of the union regardless of what our financial situation is.
God.
Now, you also got to remember that these were the same counselors that during those meetings, during those fiscal year budget meetings, were saying it's a very hard decision, but we need to make those hard decisions even if it costs us money.
Mhm.
They were practically in front of the mercy of everyone with their hearts bleeding out of their chest saying, I know it's tough, but we gotta do it.
Our backs are against the wall.
We don't have a choice.
And we need to generate this money because if we don't, we're gonna lose firemen and police officers
We
and
can't go
teachers.
to a 112 budget
because we can't go to 112 because the city will be in disarray. Fast forward 2 years. We have a way to save money for the city. What do they say? Absolutely not. We have a way that we're going to make things more efficient. What do they say? Oh, if we're paying someone $12,000 more, I'm gonna vote for a 112 budget. Where was this person
Yeah.
2 years ago?
when the pay as you throw contract was signed, right?
Yeah, come on, Mr. Mitchell. Where were you 2 years ago when that was the person we needed to probably put some sense into others? No, you're gonna be very, very petty, and you're going to vote on what you believe is right and not what the citizens think is right.
Amen.
That's where my problem lies.
And again, guys, and if the union has the better option, if the union had the better numbers,
We'd be saving money.
then go with the union. This is, and I've been posting this on Facebook quite a lot, and I've been saying this to people as they ask me questions about this. This is not a philosophy dispute.
Mhm.
When I hear Councilor Steve Camara say, I want to keep the union. I want to go to the store and shop next to a guy that works in the sanitation department. And I want to, you know, and I'm like, and I'm thinking, that's nice, Steve, but your obligation is to see if people in this city are benefiting from privatizing, not who you shop with at the side of at a store. You can't impose. I mean, I guess he can, and I guess the voters out there that voted him in, that's what they get. But he's basically imposing his personal preference, his personal philosophy on other people, and he doesn't care if it's the best cost. He doesn't care. It's a matter of what he wants. It's a matter of what he prefers. And I haven't heard him talk once about cost, about about the cost of what in-house is in comparison to privatizing.
Because they don't know.
I haven't seen him. I don't think he cares. Right.
No, they don't, because if they really cared about the money that was being spent on sanitation, one easy way to squash it all: we no longer provide trash services, period.
Right.
Period. We no longer have to pay for employees. We no longer have to pay the cost for disposal, for collection, for trucks, for carts, for any of it. Goodbye. All done.
He has on more than one occasion, and as a matter of fact, in the Committee on Ordinances and Legislation, Steve Kamara has lectured, and even I think Stephen Long made that reference, has lectured everyone else on, we need to be aware of that the taxpayer can't afford this, when he's talking about the $10 per unit fee. But this is coming from a person that owns 27, apartments. Right. 27 buildings in Fall River. So the $10 per unit fee directly affects his wallet. So he's going to go forward and say, the citizen can't pay anymore. And he's right on that. But I think it's a self-serving statement on his part too, and it's a self-serving effort on his part. But he's right. He's absolutely right. The citizen is struggling. It's something that we've always said anyway. The citizen is struggling. And if we can eliminate this $10 per unit fee, we should be able to do it, and blah, 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 blah. And that's fine. However, where is this concern for the citizen and the citizen's pockets? And
there is none.
Yes, when he says, I don't want this private company. I want to work with people that I want to work with a union and blah 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 blah. Where is the concern then? No, it's not there. He has not once talked about affordability, cost, what's the best option. It's no, I'm going with the union on this one.
And what happens, I haven't heard any good questions. I said I had to call into Ray's show yesterday and say, or Bob's show the other day, and say, people are talking about them asking tough questions. They didn't ask any questions that were pertinent to what we were discussing. All they wanted to know is what was ultimately going to happen with the employees. Right. You know what? That's not my concern. No. My concern is, okay, so if we privatize in the future and there's a reduction in the amount of trash generated in the city of Fall River, is there a reduction in what we're paying? Is there any decrease in cost? But how the hell do we know? Because not one of our counselors cared enough about that to actually ask that question. Right. What happens when we have to send our trash to a different state? Are they still going to haul it? Where are they going to haul it to? What happens to the costs if that happens? Nobody asks questions about that. All they care about are, where are the employees going to go? We got to protect these employees. Not one employee has gotten a pink slip yet.
Right? No.
Who the
hell are you protecting?
No, TJ, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Oh boy, I just pulled a Kevin Harris, didn't I?
Don't worry about that.
Anyway, a few years ago, a neighboring city did the same thing.
You're talking about New Bedford?
Talking about New Bedford, and I believe there was a email sent out asking what happened to the.
I sent out that email.
Yep.
Right.
And what was the response from the?
All right. So I about maybe 3 months ago, I'm gonna guess. I think I still have the email on me.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, so I have I sent out an email to their Ken Pacheco. They have a different title, right? They have a different title for this person, but you know how Ken Pacheco is the man around here for all city work. Well, I sent an email to their level of Ken Pacheco, and he responded back to me. And my letter to him was asking when ABC Disposal took over at in New Bedford, all the sanitation services. how many workers did you lose? And he said that many of them were absorbed into the company, the new company, and then also people who weren't absorbed into the new company were dispersed into other places. And he said, as far as he remembers, nobody lost a job when that happened. So I'm not saying that that's going to exactly happen in Fall River, but I know that it's a possibility.
I'm saying it.
Right.
I don't believe anybody is going to lose their job.
Right.
But if there was ever a something to look at to say this is what we can do or what can happen, I believe that would be a really good measuring stick there, because even if they were to just, have this new company absorb some of these guys, move some guys along to somewhere else in the DCM, put them into buildings, streets and buildings. At some point, 22 people are going to go somewhere really quick, and we're not talking about hundreds and hundreds. We're talking about 22. Oh boy!
And I just can't, because I really want to bash my head against the wall when we talk about employees losing their jobs. Ken Pacheco has said hundreds of times that he can't afford to lose any employees. He can get rid of the hauling of our trash, no problem. No problem.
Right.
But I'm still going to have a problem, even if you privatize, because I don't have enough of guys. You can't keep around a division or want to pay public employees just to protect a whole entire department. It can't happen that way. Like, I just don't see where that logic comes in. And I don't understand why one counselor hasn't said, has anybody in the DCM received a pink slip?
Right. I mean, that would be a great question to ask. And there's just so many different.
We got people protesting.
directions.
What the hell are you protesting? I don't even know what you're protesting.
I can understand. I mean, I can understand from the teacher side being, concerned, because obviously.
I'm talking about the Teamsters.
Right. But I'm just saying from the teacher side, slips have been passed out.
Right.
So there is at least. I mean, it's.
And they're not even with 300 people outside of City Hall.
This has been the word, Nikki, but that was more of a ceremonial protocol thing to pass out those slips than it was anything. It wasn't an indicator that all those people were losing their jobs. But in the sanitation side, none of that has happened yet. Now, I want to clear up something real quick that I don't think a lot of people are being informed of on WSAR or in the Herald News. And maybe, actually, I'm wrong. I think the Herald News has mentioned this. Sam Sutter was the mayor when the contract expired.
Yes,
with the sanitation division, okay? The union. Sam Sutter was the mayor, and it's something that Jazel Correa, when he went down to the floor, specified to Linda Pereira. And Linda Pereira said, I don't care.
Now.
But the truth of the matter is, I think the message has been getting across that Mayor Correa has been the one that walked away from the contract disputes, that didn't want to meet, that let the contract expire. Actually, a friend of mine, someone who I think is informed on a lot of things in the city, told me that he thought that Mayor Correa was the one that let the contract expire. I had to clear that up for him and let him understand that. What was it? June 2015?
Which was what?
2015.
June 2015 when the contract expired? For the local, for the union contract?
I don't even know that information, to be honest.
I believe it was June. It could be a different date, but I believe it was June 2015 when the contract actually expired. It was definitely 100% in 2015 during the Sutter administration. Yes. 100% on that. I don't know the exact date.
I think they kept a lot of that quiet, so we didn't know that.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't understand where the union was through all of that process.
Yes. And nobody said a peep then. They weren't protesting then because
nobody said a word when that contract was let to expire.
You know why? Because a trash fee was being implemented.
Right.
And that's why nobody said a word.
It's interesting. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. So now that he's the mayor, and it's just advantageous for people to say, oh, he's a kid, he doesn't know what he's doing, he doesn't have any experience doing this stuff, and that kind of thing. But the person who advertised himself having all the experience in the world, unless someone can correct me, I don't even think that they even had a sit down. Mayor Sutter and the union.
According to what the union representative said during his 20, 25 minutes, however long he was up there. He stated that during 2015, prior to the election, there was I think 5 or 7 meetings, and they only met twice, where the rest of them were either postponed or canceled. So they had the ability to do so. And remember that when Sam Sutter was in office, they had whatever it was, whether 5 or 7 meetings, I cannot remember the correct number, but out of those meetings, they met less than half of them. So if anyone wants to try to go that route and say, well, then what happened with Jazel? Jazel even stated that there was 5 meetings. I mean, I'm sorry, not Jazel. The union rep said 5 meetings were had. 5 meetings were scheduled. 4 were had, but they were only 2 hours in duration. So that was so. You look at the amount of time that they had, and you see that Jazel had less. Mayor Correa had less time to have those meetings. He had more of them and met those meetings, whereas the former mayor Sam Sutter had more meetings, did not meet with them, or just blew them off. So
that needs to be cleared up, though, that the current mayor did not let the contract expire. However, the current mayor has 2 big differences with the former Mayor Sutter, in that, yes, he wants to eliminate the $10 per unit fee. He also is seeking. He also went out and sought private contracts, or at least contracts with private companies, I should say. So those are very key points that would trigger the union to step up and say, "Oh my goodness, what's going on here?" And then you have all your people calling into WSAR and this, that, and the other. So we're in a situation where it's understandable. It's 100% understandable that why the union is doing what they're doing. It is. All I care about is the math. I don't care I don't care what the personal preferences of a city councilor, or even a mayor for that matter. What I care about, and what we should be caring about, is the numbers. Genuinely caring about the numbers, not saying we don't have the numbers, and we do have the numbers, and I have my own set of numbers, like Councilor Cabeceras, that he doesn't want to share with anybody. Here's the other thing I have with that, by the way, because this is the second time he was on WSAR. He was on WSAR yesterday. And I didn't listen to it because I called in after, so I didn't. People were telling me what was going on, and I was like, all right, I'll call in and try to at least clear up the position of what the city should be doing, in my opinion. But I didn't hear what he said yet, and I don't think I will, because they don't record that show. But I know he called. I know he was on the show it was Sense and Nonsense about maybe 2 weeks.
We talk about Rich.
Wait, yeah.
Okay.
So like maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago he was on, and I remember calling and asking him directly, because he was saying the same thing. He said, "Oh, keeping it city run will be the better price for the city, or it will be the more affordable option for the city." And I asked him, I said, "All right, Councilor Cabeceras, if you are saying this, where are your numbers? Show the numbers that you have, that you're confident in this." But here's the big issue, and this is something that was brought up on Facebook, but also something I've brought up as well. If you're not getting the numbers from the mayor, he keeps on consistently saying, "I don't have the numbers from the mayor. I don't have the numbers from the mayor." Yep. If he doesn't have the numbers from the mayor, and he's not showing his numbers, how can he confidently say that one is more expensive or less expensive than the other?
I've been saying for almost the whole time that we've been having this discussion that not one person can say whether it will or will not save us money, because we've never privatized before, period. No matter what town you compare it to, no matter what, we don't know what tonnage our trash is going to generate. We don't know the ins and outs of the contract. If the contract isn't signed, this is why I keep saying all that discussion about, oh, it's not going to be cheaper, oh, it is going to be cheaper. It's bull. No, not one person can prove whether it's going to be cheaper or not until we do it. Period. That's it.
So you're saying that even projections won't have value.
Well, where the hell are they getting the projections from? We're merely talking about the hauling of our trash. That's picking it up from our streets, the curb, and bringing it to Airport Road. It's not rocket science. That drives me crazy. They're paying more attention to who is hauling our trash than they are about any other aspect of our trash.
Right.
Anything.
to bring the trash to Airport Road, it is what it is. But
I'll drive my own trash.
but no one cares to mention the fact that, hey, it's still going to cost us $65 a ton to get rid of our solid waste. It's still going to cost us $83 a ton to get rid of our recyclables. That's where our costs are. If nobody, I mean, it's a very big smoke and mirrors game. Everyone wants to put employees and people losing jobs on the front line, but in the back, the real cost is getting rid of the stuff from when we bring it to Airport Road to wherever the heck it goes.
And that may change. 10 years is a long time.
Let's look at all the players in this game now that are from Tuesday. Okay, so
first chess game.
Yeah, chess game. So first you have Mayor Correa. Okay, let's do a little bit of a
Mayor Correa.
Yeah, Mayor Correa, as a former mayor Sutter used to say. But no, Mayor Correa. Now, how do you feel about him going up to the table?
I love it.
Yep,
I love it.
All right, now I'm gonna agree with you on the fact that as long as the conversation doesn't turn into a bickering fest between any specific person and him, I am all for it as long as we gain knowledge. Past that, I don't care for it. As long as I learn something and as long as there's something that's coming out that the people will enjoy or not enjoy, but will gain knowledge from and know that something good is coming, I'm perfectly for it. Can
we bring back your drifting? Can we bring that back? Can somebody bring it back? I'd like to hear that. You're drifting. No,
it's now point of orders.
No, now it's point of order and point of clarification.
I recall Councilor Capaceris just yelling. Point of
clarification.
No, point of information. Point of information. just to talk over another councilor who was in the middle of talking. That to me was more of a violation of decorum than anything I've seen from a citizen clapping.
Yep.
All right, so we're okay with everything there. If I was a city councilor sitting in one of those seats and the mayor came and I had questions for Kathy Ann Viveris that Kathy Ann Viveris and Mr. Gupta were having trouble answering, and the mayor walked up to the table and said, "Hey, I can answer this," I have zero problem with that. I don't want it to be a opportunity for campaigning or an opportunity for a big long speech or anything like that at all. But if he's there to clarify some information, I think that's perfectly fine. What happened in seat one, and that's Councilor Capaceris, is he was looking for an opportunity to try to one-up him, to get the last word, to show the union that he was going to, quote, fight for them. But it did not accomplish anything productive. That was my problem with that. I mean, there was zero value in that altogether. It looked like a person with not a lot of experience arguing with someone with a lot of experience. It looked
reminded me of my kids.
Right.
Not kidding.
He just tried to get the last word in. He was like, I yield, like real quick to try to get the last word in.
And if you look at him, you notice, right? I have noticed this. Pay attention to him because he goes forward. The more he gets into it, he pushes forward. And he pushes forward. It's like, dude, what are you doing?
It was tough to watch that. And
it is very tough to watch.
It was tough to watch that because it was not necessary, and we could have had a more productive dialogue even between them two. But instead it was my numbers show this and my numbers show that, and where are your numbers? And then for another counselor to say that it's not the counselor's job to provide you numbers, that was disingenuous.
But if you're saying your numbers are better than their numbers, you better damn well have those numbers.
Right. Like, it wasn't Kathy Ann Viveris trying to get Rich Capaceris to do the budget. That was so disingenuous of the president to say that. It was more of the fact that if you're a counselor in seat one, it's as the president, maybe you need to check your counselor.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. Oh, he does.
If your counselor in seat one is continually talking about his numbers and what information he has in these meetings to the point where they end up being hour-long discussions, right? Well, then I think it's only right that this person produced the numbers that they have. I think it's only right because he's the only one who has these numbers. He's not sharing with other counselors, anything like that at all. And he's only using it politically in discussion. he comes to WSAR, and for whatever reason, Dr. Mike loves the hell out of him, and just lets him go. And oh well, I don't have the numbers from the mayor, but I'm but rest assured, the city has the better, more affordable service. How do you know that? What are you talking about?
You can't even make that assumption.
What are you doing other than campaigning with that statement?
Yep.
So I had a problem with that. I mean, how can anyone not have a problem with that? Maybe I'm not politically supposed to express my opinion on it, but I'll tell you what, I'm kind of glad that Joe Camara is there because he does express his opinion on it, and it needs to be talked about. If I worry that if Joe Camara was not there on that council right now, a whole lot more would be getting away with. And I understand where you're going with that.
You see my face just because, but that's where I said when last year when everybody was giving him such grief, I found him to be the only counselor. Whether or not I agree doesn't matter, but I found him to be the only counselor who either looked into things or who discussed things or who wasn't it wasn't his personal opinion that was at the forefront. I felt like even if I didn't agree with him, he felt he was making the choice best suited for the residents.
Councilor Joe Camara is the only counselor asking other counselors questions on their position.
Yeah, he's the only one also. And another thing that I appreciate about him too is he's asking for things to be read. He understands the importance of those people at home watching, and a big thing is Ray Mitchell is constantly, and now Steve Camara is doing it, the interrupting Allison and not even letting her finish what she's saying. And they're already making motions and pulling it on.
Allison is the clerk for people.
And God bless her. She needs a citation. I'm giving her props.
That whole almost 7-hour meeting took because of my situation at work, and it took me nearly 11 hours to go through because I had to stop. I have to do my job, and then I have to go back and whatever. When I got home, I literally started watching the finance meeting at about 12:15. I did not finish that finance meeting during my 9 hours at work. I was about 30 minutes left. I watched the city council meeting. You can see clearly, Allison Bouchard is dead tired. She is like,
what thing? She's so miserable for being sick.
And you can even see she's getting, and she may not have meant this to come across as having an attitude, but you can definitely tell she was voicing her frustration like, dude, let me do my job.
Are you done yet?
And Camara, and if Camara's only reason for doing this, like, oh yeah, it's already late. I want to get this moving along. Then I would say look back at the amount of time you took to bloviate and put your point and go over
in every single solitary.
It was a history lesson every single time. He had to talk about how he was on the council in 1982 when they came across with the enterprise fund and how we voted for it and said let's try it. And now
when Paul Revere said the British were coming.
I was like, that, if you add it all up, I guarantee you there's at least 45 minutes to an hour that you could have cut out.
I'll guarantee you there's more than that.
I'm being conservative, just like the numbers of the administration.
So we're moving along because, I mean, we talked about Councilor in seat 1, Councilor seat 2, Joe Camara, Councilor seat 1, Cabeceras. Now, moving into Councilor in seat 3, who is Stephen Camara, we've already kind of covered a lot of things. He puts his own self-interests ahead of what could be best for the city. I don't know 100% if the private contract of sanitation is the best thing for the city, but we need to start talking about that. We need to start talking about those numbers.
The details.
Details.
Not even specifically the numbers, but how we get to those numbers.
Right. So why, from Steve Camara's point of view, he doesn't even want it. He doesn't care. He doesn't want the private contract at all. He's more concerned with working, keeping the guys working that he likes, I guess. People that, he wouldn't mind running into in a store or a supermarket or however he worded that in the meeting. That's what he wants, and he's going to vote that way. He's already talked about wanting to try to get involved in the union negotiating, bring them back to the table. He wants to be a part of that. So there's just a lot going on. He is 100% pandering to the union. Now, oddly enough, what was funny was he privatizes his sanitation on some of his properties. I think he explained it that he privatizes on 50% of his properties that he owns. Although 50% of 27
Okay,
is
I think-
still like a half a house.
I think here's the thing that I think he's not saying. Okay,
Yes.
his tenants aren't buying purple bags.
Right.
Period. Okay.
Right.
So instead of him going through all the baloney with the
Yeah.
purple bags, right? The best way was for him to privatize, because then now his tenants don't have to use purple bags, right? Also, it goes along with now there's nobody getting fake fines for not using purple bags because he's the property owner. So he'll be able to say, well, none of my tenants get a fine.
Right. Bottom line is he privatizes.
Those are the illegal
and it's
fines.
a better option for him financially to privatize. And so when he does his own finances and when he's responsible for his own properties, he chose the best option for him. And it had nothing in privatizing and unions had nothing to do with his decision to do so. However, as a city councilor, where he is supposed to be thinking that way, where he is supposed to be thinking, what is the best option for the city, regardless of my biases? And he's not doing that. Yeah.
Now, I don't get typically into any of our elected officials' personal business, but as you were saying that, I thought to myself, is it possible that Steve Camara has to have privatized trash if he's renting out to Section 8?
I have no idea. Possible.
It could very well be.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually a good question, too. So I don't think he does, though. I think the property owner has their own discretion. That's my first.
Unless he's collecting some kind of grants.
Yeah, perhaps.
Rental subsidies. There's different rental programs. There's rental programs for veterans. There's rental programs for those with HIV, for those with mental illness. So it's quite possible that he's linked up with somebody and has no choice but to privatize.
Councilor in seat 4, Councilor LeBeau, Pam LeBeau, on this particular topic, she hasn't really shown any real overtly effort to show a union support or one way or the other. She actually did vote to privatize. So she's on board with that. She feels as though if that's the best option, it's the best option. So I think even though she does show or has gotten union support in other aspects of her political career so far, she did show that she's up for the privatizing if it's the best option. So I give her that credit. The only issue that I've ever had was the whole Ken Pacheco thing. Like fighting for the whole Ken Pacheco thing was it was just overboard for me. You know what I mean? But other than that, fine. What do you think, guys?
I think she gets lost in the discussion when you have two other counselors who are constantly interrupting, who are constantly talking. And those counselors talk so much that sometimes you forget where you're at.
I agree.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I think sometimes that's the purpose.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
I mean, there have been some times where Councilor LeBeau will speak, and she does bring home some good points. She does make her points decently well. There are some times where she speaks where I find that maybe it's a little bit self-interest within her neighborhood. But you know what? I don't think there's any councilor that doesn't do that. So I mean, I give that a pass. And I think for what she's done, I think, and given the circumstances of who talks and who doesn't, I think she's kind of like the one that's like, I want to say something, but when do I get to do it? And that's not a bad thing. I just think it's just unfortunate in her situation.
Counselor in
when we
seat
get to him.
5,
Stephen Long.
Stephen Long. Oh, was he sleeping?
No, you could definitely see in the video where he is kind of.
At home, you could hear the snoring
Wow.
because
Really?
I posted. You know how we
Yeah.
live
Yeah.
message and post and stuff.
Yeah.
I posted somebody is snoring because
Oh,
I could
man.
hear them snoring.
No way.
So when you watch the meeting,
I am gonna have to watch that meeting from the TV's perspective, even though I had a front row seat. I
yeah,
did see
you can hear the snoring.
Counselor Long with his hand on his face, but
I wasn't sure
hey,
who.
I had my hand on my face for much of that meeting
Yeah.
too. I mean, there was a lot of embarrassment going on there.
From my point, from being at home watching,
Yep.
and I'm not watching on a really big screen, I couldn't see the who,
Mhm.
but somebody was in fact snoring, and then you could hear nudge him. That was Kadeem who said nudge him.
Wow.
Yeah, so you can actually, that's the thing about being at home. I don't think our counselors realize,
How much you can hear
and
on those
even
microphones.
if their mic is off, if the counselor next door has their mic on,
Yes.
it still picks up much conversation.
We heard, I mean, I've said it now on many occasions now, we've heard Linda Pereira used,
Well, she's not the only one who has sworn, by the
Right,
way.
right, but
There are many.
the
of
most
them who-
recent one that we've
It
heard
was very loud too.
yeah, but Linda also swore at another counselor, and we heard that on, on video. So I actually have the video here. Got a phone call here.
Don't get the speakers.
Hello, you're on City Talk Fall River.
Nope.
Oh,
Hang on.
hold on 1 second, please. We're just gonna fix our speaker system here. Hello, you're on City Talk Fall River.
Hi, Todd. It's Pam.
Hey Pam, how you doing? I reached out to Pam earlier before we started the show to see if she wanted to, have a discussion on this. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good, good.
Very low.
So I was just listening, and I wanted to bring up a couple of points.
Go for it.
Is that okay? All right. So Counselor Long sits next to me, and he was not sleeping,
All
but
right.
in fact,
It
there was
wasn't
someone there was someone in the audience that was. I'm not going to
Okay.
say who it was,
All
but there
right.
was a gentleman in the audience that was, and
Thank
at
God
that
for
late
that.
time, I don't blame him. And he was saying nudge him. President Steen was saying nudge him, but he was saying nudge him because Councilor Camara, Steve Camara, was out of his seat speaking to Councilor Ponte, and it's distracting. And he was saying nudge him, meaning, knock it off, get back in your seat so we can continue here.
All right. Well, thank goodness for that. I don't want to see anybody sleeping, regardless. I mean,
No, nobody was sleeping.
I wasn't happy.
But there was a
to-
gentleman in the audience that was sleeping, and you know what? I don't blame him.
Alan, what's his
blame
name?
him
Alan
either.
Zarek? He's like falling out of his chair sleeping when he's
No,
there for most
I
of the
didn't
time.
notice it. I didn't notice it was
I have
Alan,
pictures-
but there was.
I have pictures of Alan just knocked out at the meetings. I have pictures.
Well,
I do. I mean, for whatever reasons, for my own amusement, but I do.
Well, the last meeting was long, so
Yeah, it was very long. So I wasn't happy with much of that meeting. But Pam, from your perspective, sitting in seat 4, right? Could you give us your perspective as what you felt was
Yes.
going on from the older counselors? Because you're new, and I think you're going to have a different perspective from maybe someone who's been there for 20
Well,
years.
I do, and I heard you say, she doesn't get to talk much, or she doesn't say. This is what I do. I do my homework before the meeting. So when I get to the meeting, and I've said this over and over again, I'm not going to be the counselor that talks and talks and talks and repeats myself or repeats what one of the other 8 counselors said over and over again. That's unnecessary, and it's part of the reason the meetings are so long. So I do my homework. I already have many of my questions answered. I don't feel the need to ask them again. If that seems like I'm not talking or I don't know what's going on, it's not true. I've spent a lot of time in City Hall asking questions. I don't need to just do it there. If things come up during the meeting, I raise my hand, I wait my turn. I'm not going to be talked over. If someone starts talking over me, I'm going to tell them I still have the floor. I'm going to get my questions answered and move it along.
Mhm.
That's how it should be.
Yeah.
I get it. If you watched the meeting the other night, no disrespect to my counselors, but there were some counselors that are against privatization. They want us to keep it in-house. We get it. We got it the first time you said it. We got it the 8th time you said it.
Amen.
Move it along.
I agree with that 100%. And I've also had conversations with other people about you particularly. And I said that you do one thing that I think that I would want to do if I was there is I do a lot more absorbing than I do expressing, or try to flex my muscle of authority at this stage.
Well, your expression, your final expression is in your vote.
Right.
So, the other night about, and then if I get frustrated, sometimes I'll speak up because I've had enough, or when they
Right.
wanted to put counselors in on in with union negotiations,
Right.
absolutely not. We do not belong there.
Yeah.
If you want to send a resolution, and I saw, there's some comments about this, is she for union, is she not for union? I'm for whatever saves the city money.
Well, I
That's the
haven't
bottom
seen
line.
you. I know that you've gotten support in some other areas, but from union. But I know that when it comes to the sanitation piece, your position has been whatever the best price is or whatever the best cost
As it
is.
should be.
Right, as it should be. It shouldn't be about your personal preference. It should be about what objectively is the best decision for the
That's
city.
what we were elected to do. What's
Right.
the best interest of the city? And I did get one union endorsement, and it was one, I believe you got it too, from the fire department.
I did
And
not.
quite honestly, there was,
I did
you didn't
not.
get that? I thought you did.
I did not
I'm
get
sorry.
a union support from the fire department.
Okay,
No.
I'm sorry, I thought you did.
Shout out to my friend
We all
Jason
went to
Burns.
that.
Shout out to my friend
We
Jason
all went
Burns.
to that. We all went to that same, we were all invited to that same fire department thing to give our
Yes.
5-minute speech. Some
Yes.
endorsements came out of that, whatever that may be, what's fine. There was one other union questionnaire, and I will say this with all honesty, that counselors were sent or not sent. And I honestly didn't fill it in because I wasn't comfortable with the questions being asked and the positions that really needed to be said in an answer to get their endorsement.
Well, they wanted
I
you to
didn't
raise
feel comfortable
taxes.
with that.
Yeah, they had. I mean, I still have all that documentation on me. They wanted to know if you want to raise taxes. Like you will raise taxes to support the union. Like there was very, very direct questions as to how
It
you're
was
going to vote.
very, yeah.
Yeah, there's no way.
You were
And
going to
there's no way I
vote
was gonna do
based on that questionnaire, and that wasn't the best interest of the city. And quite honestly, I didn't fill it out.
that. No.
So that's my whole interaction with unions, if you will.
Mhm.
I'm not pro-union. I'm not against union. I'm just for whatever's in the best interest of the city.
Now, I have
Because
a
at the end of the
question
day,
for you.
remember,
I have a
What?
question for you because pertaining to Ken Pacheco, because that if you were listening, you know that my position is you shouldn't have Steve and Linda and Ray all shouldn't have made this about Ken Pacheco, that whole topic about Ken Pacheco as much. So my question to you, and I
well,
think that
here's the issue with the Ken Pacheco. When
all
we
right,
went
I
into
still
the
have a
meeting-
question I want to ask after you say what you said.
Go
All
ahead.
right, no, go ahead. I want to hear your piece first.
So when we, because I feel like a lot of people see what plays out on the council floor, but they don't see what happens in the meetings. We go in meetings 3 at a time up to the 6th floor. So when the entire reorg was presented to us, it was presented to us with Ken Pacheco's name attached to buildings. So that's why it kept coming up, Ken Pacheco, because that is exactly how it was presented to us. This is who's in charge, and this is where he's going, and this is what he's going to do. Now, I voted for the reorg. Then I got upset when they, played a little numbers game with the new person that they were hiring, and then we also wanted to debacle that turned into.
You thought
So-
you thought at that ordinance meeting, you thought that they signed a contract. That's the impression you were under until they explained that it was an offer sheet, and then we were able to
Yeah,
actually
but
get out of that, right?
But if you watch the meeting.
Oh, I
Kathy
did.
told us that, Kathy told us at the meeting that they had a signed contract. And then when we got to an ordinance meeting, it was then
Oh,
said it was a
Offer sheet.
signed offer. And then in the paper, he was in government center. He wasn't in government center. He signed a contract. He didn't sign a contract.
so there was a lot of
So listen,
misinformation all left and right. Is that basically it?
Yes.
Well, I
And
know
I'm
I know
also
one
saying
thing for sure. I know one thing for sure, Pam. Kathy Ann Viveris told you in that ordinance meeting, even though she said an offer sheet was signed, she said that the person was not budging on the 110 and that he already put his 2 weeks notice in, which I thought was interesting. So it made it look like it was a
Well-
done deal. But my question to you,
But here's my thing. If you're hiring somebody,
yeah.
if they're not budging, it's not up to them. It's up to the person doing the hiring. Are you going to accept that or not?
And I guess they wanted to
It should
keep
be him doing.
They wanted to
Except
keep him at
an offer.
110. But my question, Pam, is when you guys when the whole council voted for this new position, why didn't it get capped off at 98? Why did it stay at the 98 to 110 range?
No, it was 80 to 110, which was what they
Right.
put in the job posting.
Right.
When they brought it to the council floor, they said it was going to be an equitable split of the departments, 98 and 98. This is one of the first meetings on it.
Mhm.
So when we had an ordinance meeting about it, I questioned, and I think some of my other colleagues did as well, why does it say 80 to 110? And that's when Kathy Ann said, well, Mr. Holmes is also retiring at the end of June, and perhaps we might put that job in there as well. That job is not something, and I was in a meeting yesterday with some more interviews, that job is not something that you can do, take those two jobs and combine them into one. Byron Holmes has a full-time job as a city engineer. We need a full-time city engineer. So
Okay.
that's not possible. So there was a lot of things being thrown in the mix, like, oh, we might have a city motor pool. we've never heard of the city motor pool. You never said it in the interviews. It was never been brought up before. And I said this, and I always try to be as respectful as possible, but at that time, the administration was just trying to justify
Keeping it at
going to the
110.
110.
So,
Yeah.
so my
you
point,
offer a job.
so I guess my point here is, couldn't there have been language in between with saying such as, if XYZ is in place, then it can be 110, and if XYZ isn't in place, it has to be 98. So that way, whoever they hire can still stay at 98 if the other factors that you're saying they used to justify the position wasn't there. So that way, you're getting your 98 no matter what.
Because of the way that job is, it wasn't in ordinance at an amount. So the mayor has free reign. The mayor could have given him $50,000, and he could have given him $200,000. The council had no control over that. But I did co-sign a resolution with Councilor Steve Camara that job be put in at 98. That was the one Steve put it in at 80 because he had to put a number on the sheet that was going to lead to withdraw ordinance. I voted against it. I believe Councilor Ponte voted against it as well. It was passed out of the council floor this past Tuesday. The lead to withdrawal was taken off the table. It was put back in and it passed through first reading. So that's alive again. So it will be in ordinance.
Now, the last piece to just me asking you to call in, I wanted to get your position on the numbers. Now, have you had an opportunity to look at the numbers so far that's been posted?
So, and I knew you were going to ask me that. So on Wednesday, I had an ordinance meeting to get prepared. So I have glanced at the numbers. I have not sat down. I did talk to Mary Sahadi on Tuesday, asked her if I could come in and meet with her next week to go over the numbers line by line. I do have some questions about privatization versus in-house. I noticed some line items are completely wiped out. Electricity, communications, things like that. So where are those numbers going? Because we still do own the building on Lewiston Street, and we still have to pay electricity. Is that the entire bill that they have in? As if we do an in-house, I think the number off the top of my head, I don't have it in front of me, for electricity one year was like 6,000 or whatever it was. Where is that number going? It doesn't just disappear. You still have to pay the electric bill. So, where are those numbers going? So I will be going in next week to sit down with Mary Sahadi and to go over the numbers. I don't feel the need that you have to do it on the floor at a council meeting. You can go into Government Center and they will answer any question that you have. If you still have questions, or if more questions come up during the meeting, then certainly ask those on the council floor. And then, you said your voice at the meeting or where you're going, your voice is in the vote that you take. Now, the vote that I took to absolutely not have counselors involved, and that was the amended resolution in contract negotiations, we don't belong there. The first part of the resolution I supported, but you have to remember, a resolution is really just a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a suggestion to the administration. Can you relook at the numbers on privatization? And I think there was a lot between Joe Camara and Ray Mitchell. The privatization may or may not be in the best interest of the city of Fall River. Can you relook at it? Quite honestly, Mayor Carrera could get that resolution on his desk and go, okay, I have looked at it. I'll reconsider it. Yep, bye-bye. And that's it. The resolution really is just a suggestion to the administration. So, let's get our numbers all together and figure it out. Public Service says he has different numbers. I'm going to sit down with Mary Sahadi.
Have you seen Councilor Cabaceres' numbers? Oh, did I lose it?
Hello? Yep.
Your phone just
Everything. It was everything.
No, the phone died. I'll call it back.
Well, that's stinky. It's just because I was
Yeah.
going to ask a question.
What was the question you were going to
My
ask?
question is
I'll call it right back.
about the 10 years. Why is the privatization contract for 10 years and not less than 10?
Okay.
5? Why 10? We don't know where our trash is going to be in 10 years.
Right.
And is this privatization contract eventually going to screw us when we go to renegotiate contracts as far as with the transfer station or anything else?
If Pam LeBeau's listening right now, we're going to call you right back. My phone for some reason just dropped and it's reloading right now. So as soon as I get my phone reloaded back up, I'm going to call you right back.
I'm right here.
Yeah, that was one of the weirdest. I've never seen a phone
No,
just
yeah, my
straight
phone,
drop.
my phone just sometimes restarts on its own sometimes.
It's
so
weird.
it is what it is.
Hey.
We'll do it again. I'll call her right now. Hopefully she's right there.
So I will definitely say this. I mean, during I'll go past the council.
She's
meeting
right. I think it's right here.
because I do have a question about the.
Hey, you still there?
I'm back.
Yeah, it was our fault. My phone dropped while she was in the middle of asking you a question. So, but have you seen the numbers from Councilor Cabaceres at all?
I have not.
Has he talked to you about his numbers at all?
Phone louder, I think.
I actually briefly spoke to him this morning. So and then there's a huge echo on this line. But I have not seen his numbers. If he wants to share them with the rest of the council, I'll certainly look at those in comparison to the numbers that we were given. Maybe I'll have more questions.
Okay. When you talked to him a little bit, what did he say exactly about his numbers? Was he just confident and that's it, or?
No, I mean, we were talking about a couple of other things. So,
Okay.
that had happened at the meeting, but it wasn't specific to the numbers.
Okay. All right.
But in the past, he has then, offered to hand them to the rest of the counselors. I encourage him to go in and sit down with the administration and look at both of their sets of numbers and find out what the difference is.
Now, Nikki had a question for you before the phone dropped about the 10-year contract. Why is it 10 years? Do you favor that? Or, we don't know exactly where our situation is going to be in a decade from now. So
We don't. And the question I have on that is if they can do a 10-year contract. I know that there's a huge echo on this phone. I don't know if you can hear it, but I'm hearing myself talk twice.
it's all right. I think it's our speaker right now, but we'll get that fixed someday.
Normally a contract would have to come down in front of the council. Now this is different. He doesn't even have to go out to bid or because of sanitation the way it is, it doesn't follow the same rules. And he is absolutely right. Mayor is absolutely right. The city council is not voting on this. This is his decision to make. Do I have reservations about a 10-year contract? I do. There are two schools of thought. We are locked in at a rate. We know what it's going to be. We know what it's going to be for 10 years. And then the other school is, like you just said, there are things that could drastically change in 10 years. I'm always a fan of seeing what other communities do. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. What are other communities doing that they're doing right? Are they signing 10-year contracts? Have they signed a 10-year contract and they've regretted it? Have they signed a 10-year contract and it's worked out wonderfully for them?
Right.
I'd like to, I did speak about the 10-year contract the other day at the meeting, but those are all questions to be asked.
Well, thank you for calling. Thank you for calling in.
Welcome.
And now I hope you know that you can always call into the show. You've called into our show before. When we were at BCC.
I think so. It's been a while.
Yeah, we even had Jess Machado in the studio with us at that time as well. So we can
that
talk
was
to
a while
people.
ago.
We can talk to anybody, anytime. We're not here to combat anybody. I just want you to know that. All right.
No, but listen, I want to tell you one more thing about those numbers.
Yep.
Because I know you said about 11 o'clock at night, we should look at those numbers.
Oh, I would have at least started the discussion. We had to, instead of what was going on, Pam. Instead
I
of
know,
what
but
was
so
in
two
the
things.
alternative.
Well, I agree. We had to finish the rest of the agenda, one.
Yep.
And two, when you handed numbers after you've been sitting there for 5 hours,
Oh yeah.
it's probably not in the best interest of anybody to be making decisions based on that.
No, I
Although
reached
it's
out
not
to
our decision
Jazel.
make.
I reached out to Jazel and I asked him why that came to them at 11, and he said it wasn't first on the agenda. I mean, it's up there on Facebook, so I mean, I don't want to just requote him, but he has an explanation for that. But my point is, there was a 2-hour opportunity to at least bring it to the table. There was no way, and I know Jason Burns commented on my post as well. There's no way they were going to come to any decision making in that 2-hour span or anything like that at
Right.
all. But they could have at least opened up the discussion. Now, my biggest problem was Councilor Mitchell on his radio show the next day was continuing the narrative that he didn't have the numbers. He could have easily said, I got the numbers late. We got the numbers now. Moving forward, we can have a discussion. But for about a full hour, it was, we don't have the numbers. This council, this administration shady, that kind of thing. I didn't like it. I felt it was disingenuous. So it wasn't a shot at the entire council. It was more of a disappointment in Ray Mitchell, who is an elder statesman on your council, that is saying to the public he didn't have the numbers at that moment in time, the day after the meeting, when he clearly did have the numbers, and he should have just said he did. you know?
I didn't listen to his show, but my thought process on this is, and I told you this, and I'll show you this as an example, and it'll make sense. But when we were given the third quarter budget numbers, the first 7 pages were wrong.
I say,
There were percentage points that are supposed to be 65%, and in the column they're listed as 550%. There are numbers that are supposed to say 300,000, and they say 2 million something.
Yep.
They were just numbers that were completely wrong. So I would be hesitant to start a conversation over something that I'm just handed, especially numbers, without having the time to sit down and review them.
All my only preference was, Pam, is if those numbers were given at that moment in time, my only preference would have been to at least address that they're there, that maybe we can have a discussion moving forward. And again, I'm just repeating myself, but that would have been a strong alternative to what we ended up with for the last 2 hours of that meeting. Not pertaining to the agenda, not just the agenda overall. I know you have to go through the agenda, but I'm just talking about the amount and the level of pandering and whatnot. I know you can't use that term right now, but the amount of what was going on there, I would have rather have seen you guys talk about those numbers and actually just say thank you for, you know what I mean? Like I would have thanked all of you for at least starting that conversation rather than whatever else happened at that point in time. It was just really, really rough to watch. And I imagine in your seat, it was rough to have to sit through, you know? And I know Stephen Long wasn't happy about having to sit through that. I can see that in his body language.
Steve and I get frustrated. Folks say they'll be happy to play poker with me because I can't keep a straight face. I have a tendency to roll my eyes or show my frustration through body language.
Yeah.
And I know that Steve Long does as well. But when you're sitting there for 5 hours and
if me and Steve Long played cards together, we'd all lose our money at the same time and no one would win.
Well, that's perfect. It's just not my style to talk and talk and talk and talk. So I get frustrated.
Right. It was bad. It was really bad, and I would have rather have seen that discussion, even if you just walk away from that, you know.
I have a question.
Nikki has a question for you. I'm going to pass the phone over. I hope that this sounds right and the phone doesn't break on us again. It's good. You got this. Yeah.
Okay. Well, my question is, I was curious how you feel about citizens speaking during citizens input, saying counselors' names. Do you think that is okay? Or would you, as a city councilor, prefer to be called something else?
I feel that at citizens input, first of all, I'm for citizens input. If 100 people sign up, they all get 3 minutes. That's what it's for. That's why we're there. We're elected to hear what people have to say. I think it's gotten out of hand in the past, in the last term, where counselors were called out and ridiculed, and I don't want to see that. I've been very uncomfortable in the audience watching it. If you have an issue with a counselor, you can certainly call them up, email them. That's just my preference. If you want to call me by name or seat number, it doesn't matter to me.
Okay. And the second part of the question I had was, how do you feel about the clapping? Because what I don't understand is I see a lot of people getting upset about it, but the clapping isn't the biggest issue. I think there are other issues.
No, it's not about clapping.
Okay. And that's,
to me,
I hope not.
And I've said this. It's not about clapping. And they keep saying clapping. It's deteriorated into now it's about clapping. It's just general conduct in the council chamber. And I say this, you can't go into a movie theater and talk during the movie. They're going to kick you out. You can't go into a judge's courtroom and, be saying things out loud. The judge is going to tell you to leave. You can't go into a library and do that. Just, if you feel the need, you're going to talk during the meeting. And believe me, I get frustrated too when someone raises their hand to speak for the third time. My body language shows it, but I'm not going to groan. It's not fair. It's just not fair. I'm not going to go into someone else's work and say, hey, you're talking for the 5th time, knock it off.
Has anybody said that though? Like, this is where, because I think I'm seeing it from a different angle. I don't see anybody getting so disruptive in the audience.
There are people that say, tell Council President Kadeen, go back to CCONC. We've been asked if we have alcohol in our water bottles.
Oh, wow. Okay.
There's a lot of groaning when a certain counselor...
From watching at home, I don't hear that. But what I have heard... What I have heard is Linda swearing. I've heard that. I constantly hear Linda say, "This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous," when other
Yep.
counselors are speaking. So for me, I'm listening at home. I don't hear the audience. I'm hearing the counselors. So I'm getting confused.
Because the mics are on, yeah.
I'm getting confused
And
as to
that's
why
not
it's
okay either.
okay. It isn't okay, and that's my point.
It's not okay.
Okay.
And a couple weeks ago, President Kennedy did send a letter out to all the counselors telling us to knock it off as well. What's
Mhm.
fair is fair.
Yeah,
If we're gonna-
I
we
think
can't
those.
act like that. And
I'm pretty sure
No one else should
the
either.
rules of decorum were written more for those in the seats rather than those in the audience. And I agree with you as far as the insults or is there alcohol in your water bottles. I think that's a little ridiculous. But for the clapping or for saying a counselor's name, or even if I speak at citizens input, if you stated something on the air on a different radio station or what have you, or said something to the media, and I'm responding to what is being said, there's nothing wrong with that. Even if I say a counselor is bloviating, I mean, we all know that there are counselors who do that. So to call them out on it isn't an insult. It's reality.
Well,
So I feel
yeah,
that's
my thing,
where,
I guess it's your opinion on what they're saying and their opinion on what they're saying.
right. So, and ultimately it's all about our opinions. It's not a matter of insulting. So I guess that's what I'm saying. It's just everybody's personal opinion. It's just never really been too much of a problem before. And I think last year we had more, and the year before, we had more of an issue in the chambers than we do now. I think now it's a lot better than it was in the past.
I think it's a lot better, but this is how I feel about it. Last year, and one of the final deciding reasons I decided to run was because my daughter, who's 9, she was 8 at the time, is very interested in government. I brought her to the State House. She had a great day. She's been asking to go to a council meeting. I couldn't bring her to a council meeting last year. I brought her to a public safety meeting. I thought it would be safer. No, it was a nightmare. They cleared the room. There was yelling. It was right before Councilor De Silva resigned. It was awful. I still don't feel comfortable bringing her to a council meeting.
I wouldn't feel comfortable bringing my kid around Paul De Silva either, to be honest with you.
No, well, no, that's not what I'm saying. But right now, I wouldn't bring her to a council meeting. And that's not fair. She's interested. There's people in the audience calling us names, and it's not fair. But someone that's a child.
Why
that's
aren't the
interested in
police?
government-
Why aren't the police then removing those people? Like, this is where I'm really having difficulty with this, because I'll tell you, I'm going through our laws and everything, and I plan on wholeheartedly calling every city councilor out on every ordinance they violate. And trust me, there are many. There are many. So for me, it's creating okay, well, if they're going to get into calling, like not letting us say them by name, and then by all means, that's not you. That's counselor in seat 1 who's insisting that we cannot call him by his name. When in all reality, I'd much rather call him by his name than say the counselor who's constantly egging on the counselor to his left. And by definition, that would be legal for me to say.
Right.
So I
But
just,
the ordinance, I mean, I don't know if there's not an ordinance for citizen input for what you can or cannot say, but we're not supposed to be calling each other by name.
exactly my point. Thank you for bringing that up, because I've been trying to say it.
But you
Let me do
find,
this.
like, I'll say it and then I'll correct myself.
It
and
is
call
a
them by their
silly.
seat number, which I think is silly, but it is what's the rule is.
I agree with you there. When I posted about the name thing, I said that many of our ordinances are very old and antiquated. So as far as something like the names, I think that's foolish. You guys should be able to say each other's names as well. But if the council is going to insist that citizens can't do certain things when there's no law stating that they can't, then we're going to call counselors out on the ordinances they are violating. So I appreciate your candor.
No problem, anytime.
I think Trot has another question for you. Let me pass it along.
Okay.
I don't have any other questions, but I know Derek does. He wanted to ask you about about actually, since you brought it up, the safety commission that you're ahead of.
Public safety, okay?
Hello, Pam. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. I know we could keep talking about this latest city council meeting, but I think one of the things I kind of wanted to bring up, since you are the chair on public safety, was a while back there was a lot of talk about the King Philip Mill, and I'm just curious if there's been anything new about that you can share, or is there anything that or what's not going on?
So, yep, I did get an update on that yesterday. I was at City Hall, and we're just waiting for one more piece of information, and this is right from Kathy Ann. As soon as we get that, then they're going to go ahead and put the RFP out on taking the mill down.
All right,
That was the update I got yesterday about noontime.
Oh, that makes me so
so
sad.
they are so eventually the plan is to tear it down and not okay. I was just curious where that
So
was. 'Cause
I will tell you, I give credit where credit is due. The administration put in for the demo permit very early. They were at the meeting in January. We had our public safety meeting there last month. The mayor came and spoke. This is not something that they're dragging their feet on in any way. There are a lot of different reports that they've had to wait for on the smokestack and the mill in general, but they are actively working on that. I give them full credit for that.
Awesome. I'm not sure if Shaw has anything else.
No, I don't. No,
Okay.
no.
All right. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for talking about that.
No
Thank you,
problem.
Pam. Thank you very much for calling in.
All right, thanks. Have a good day.
Have a great one.
Bye.
All right. So Pam LeBeau called into the show, and
Twice.
Twice because
I'm
we
glad
had-
you called back
we
for
had
technical
phone complications,
difficulties.
and I apologize to everybody. I wanna tell you that we've been working on getting changes, but I want to tell you that. But truth of the matter is, we've been running this whole thing off my cell phone for quite some time now.
Listen, we have so much fun. So like, I really don't even care. Like I say all the time, like I try to remind myself, okay, Nikki, remember to post about City Talk being on. And then I'm like, by Friday morning, I'm like, or Friday night, I'm like, oh man, I can't believe I didn't do that yet. But that's okay. I'm not here for attention.
No, it's cool.
I
It's
love
cool.
it. I have-
I was just writing
I'd still
some
do
notes
it if it
down.
was
You
just
don't have
one
to read
person.
this out, but I was just writing some notes down.
The only thing I was gonna say was like about trying to get that the board finally going. We're just kicking that can down.
Yeah, we are definitely kicking that can down the road. Now,
We saved money by
I wanna-
purchasing it so early.
I want to officially thank Councilor LeBeau for calling into the show. The counselors, school committee members, we've had people call into the show. What's his name? Edward Costa?
He
Yeah,
just
that's his
likes to
name.
knock on
He
the
just
door.
walks right into my apartment and sits down with us like it's no big deal, kicks his feet up. So we want everyone to understand that even though we are very critical of the process and some of the meetings and things like that, we welcome anybody to call into the show, talk with us, give us your perspective, your insight, because that's the only way we get anything productive going on is by actually talking and having a dialogue, not trying to silence people or talk over each other or anything like that at all. But yeah, I'm going to be critical because guess what? We need to be critical. And if I'm doing something wrong, somebody should be critical of me too. You know what I mean? And whatever else. It's that's the only way we get to answers. So real quick, Nikki, you had a nice discussion with Councilor LeBeau about the decorum piece, the clapping piece, whether or not, council should be having these tug of wars the way they're having them. Now, at the ordinance meeting, and Pam was at this ordinance meeting, but at the ordinance meeting, the most recent one that just passed, and it's on FRG TV. I would Google FRG TV and go to video on demand, and that's the fastest method to get there, in my opinion.
You could just put in Fall River Government Television too, and it'll come up.
Yeah, yep. So at any rate, Councilor Kadim and Councilor Joe Camara were butting heads pretty hard at the last ordinance meeting, and ultimately how the conversation. And I was gonna play it like we normally play clips, but it's such a long one. It's like maybe a half hour long.
Oh, wow.
of dialogue between councilors Linda Pereira, on a very minor level, Linda Pereira, and on a major level, Councilor Joe Camara and Sean Kadim, and also Kathy Ann Viveris stood up for herself in this too. So go ahead. Before I go into it, go ahead, Derek.
I was going to ask your opinion on the. There was a section of that meeting. I'm not sure if they were talking about the $10 fee. I was pretty sure they were talking about the abolishment of the $10 fee, or to strike out the ordinance for the $10 fee. There was a part of that back and forth between Joe Camara and Sean Kadim, where they were going back and forth, and then Linda finally piped up and said something to the effect of, "I was going to call a point of order, but I didn't because Sean was talking. And then the point of order was finally called on Joe. Now, Joe made a slight comment. I don't know if you caught it, saying he sees what's happening. Now, do you think, now I have my own opinion, and I kind of see what he says. I don't know if there's a big thing about it, but do you think there was something more to that point of order from Linda when Joe was speaking versus when Sean was speaking?
I think that when people such as Joe Camara and Sean Kadim are speaking, it holds a little more weight with the older counselors than the younger or newer counselors are speaking. So I think that more leeway is given to someone like Sean. And even though Sean Kadim is technically a new city councilor, has a long standing in Fall River government. So I think that those two gentlemen gain more respect from another counselor than and more leeway to talk. And Steve Camara is also one of those people, although I think that Steve Camara was getting point of orders on him in that meeting as well. But I think that Linda is more comfortable interjecting on Joe Camara than on Sean Kadim. That's what I felt like. That's what it felt like in that meeting.
In my own opinion, I had when you have a subcommittee meeting that has members attached to that committee, I think what happens is that anybody that is just that any counselor that is there just to make their points should do two things: stick to their point, don't go into history lessons and this is about me, and secondly, if you get off point, just like in any citizen's input, they have the right to call a point of order. I think that should have been done a lot more than it was. I think Councilor Pereira had the right to say it to President Council President Kadim, and I think that a lot of that meeting could have been cut down by at least a good third because of that.
Now, remember who the chair is. He's a brand new city councilor. I think that, and with so much experience on the committee, you got Joe Camara, you got Linda Pereira, and then you also have Sean Kadim in the crowd. So I think that for Councilor Ponte, who is the chair, I think he's with more time, he's going to interject a little bit more on that. I really think that they're already starting to see the movement now. I think you're going to hear more point of orders when Steve Camara goes into his realm of historical discussion. So, but anyway, my point to start off this was Pam LeBeau's conversation with Nikki about the decorum piece to this. Now, again, Sean Kadim and Joe Camara were butting heads hard because, and this is how it really kind of started out. Sean Kadim started with, we're not seeing the numbers. The whole conversation of we're not seeing the numbers. We shouldn't get rid of the $10 per unit fee, in his opinion, because it's revenue that can be used in other aspects. He's still on that.
They're all on
right. No, he's on it more than anybody.
Yeah.
Sean Kadim is on this more than anybody. And again, if we're looking at—
he's so arrogant about it too.
If we're looking at what a fee and a tax is, and the definition of what a fee is and what it can be used for, and it specifically states in its law that it can't be used for generalized services such as education, public safety.
The two examples given
Right.
on the Division of Local Services website in
Right.
their pamphlet
Right,
is core education
right.
or police protection.
So
You cannot charge a fee for either of those.
So again, if Sean Kadim, and again, we treat our call as good as we can. If Sean Kadim ever wanted to call into the show and explain us his interpretation of that law, I want to know it, because on more than one occasion now he's brought this up, that we can use the sanitation fee, the local receipts from the sanitation fee to pay for other services, and we're not seeing that in the law. And I want to have a dialogue on this. So anyway, Sean brought this up and he started going into, the administration, should really reconsider this and things like that. And then Joe Camara had an opportunity to talk, and he criticized the budget preparation and audits meeting. And he said that meeting was supposed to be about having this long, this discussion about the
Mhm.
budgets and everything. And all it ended up being was, people reading their letters to was about the school committee,
Yep.
which we weren't talking about those specific questions that needed to be answered about the budget.
Right.
And Joe Camara said it's mind-boggling to me that they spent all this time fighting to get this committee together, having this committee meeting, and how many meetings have they had with the administration about the budget? One.
Yep.
And it wasn't even a productive meeting at all.
Mhm.
So why are we now here talking about how nobody's answered my questions on the budget when you have a committee dedicated to
Amen.
it, and a committee that he said he voted for? Now, that being said, and I love to use that term, that being said, because every city councilor uses that term, that being said, including the mayor. He says that being said as well. So that being said, Sean Kadim responds back to Joe with this statement. I'm going to have to break out my Crayola crayons and draw you a picture, Councilor Camara.
Yep.
He said that. And I might not have gotten the exact quote down, so I'm going to say I paraphrase that. But of all the things, with the whole thing about decorum and
That's the point.
respect to other counselors, he sent out that letter about not bickering at other
Yep.
counselors. I'm going to pull out my Crayola crayons
Listen,
and draw you a picture.
like I said, at that meeting that he came off the
Right.
podium
Right.
to sit down
Yeah.
and talk for 20 minutes about 22 windows
It was way
and
out of-
and asking Ken Pacheco, if I come in and tell you to do X, Y, and Z, and then the mayor comes in and tells you afterward, what was all that for?
Right.
That had nothing to do with the budget or anything that was being discussed at that moment. It's just because they like to bloviate about the 22 windows. Let's give people what they want, right?
Mm.
That's what he said.
Hey, give the people what they
Give
want.
the people what they want.
So he says he brings up this whole thing about Crayola crayons now, and he talks about I'm drawing this out for you, and then he was very critical of Kathy and Viveris. Kathy and Viveris stepped up, said, "Look, those questions that you're asking right now, I have." Shout out to Danielle Roy, everybody.
Hi,
those-
Danielle.
Those questions that I have now, all right. Those questions that I
Picture pages, lots of fun picture pages.
That was Bill Cosby. You can't talk.
I know. But those questions that I have now that he was bringing up in this ordinance meeting, Kathy and Viveris on more than one occasion said to him, those questions that you have pertain, number one, they pertain to the school committee, not really necessarily to me. We don't get involved with the school committee putting together the
Right.
school budget. We don't get involved with that. So those questions are pertinent, but they're pertinent to a different person, not me. However, we are ready for components of the budget to discuss. We have been more than ready to have discussions about pensions, about healthcare, about things like that. And Sean Kadim responded with, the school committee, the school budget's not Cuba. It's not an entity and an island on its own. Like, he was still going into this headbutting with the administration and the other counselor. And I wasn't understanding that from someone who has emphasized to have a respectful dialogue and not have the bickering and not have the back and forth. But he was admonishing people and talking down at them, and I wasn't understanding that. So now we're at now we have to, hopefully, after all this is getting out of the way, now that the numbers are out there, now that everything is ready to go, we can stop with this. We can stop with all this back and forth, and they can actually have real productive discussions. There's no excuses now. If we have another 7-hour council meeting in the next upcoming weeks and nothing is produced out of this other than more bloviating, more fighting, more bickering, if we have more ordinance meetings where there's more fighting, more bickering, and less production, where are we going with this council? Where are we going with this city? Seriously. That was my point. If the person is coming at you with, I'm going to bring out my box of Crayola crayons and draw you a picture, and then at the other side saying, oh, we need to have better decorum in the council chambers, we're in trouble. We're not going to get anything done at all.
I agree.
I mean, we're in trouble. So that's that. everybody out there, the citywide cleanup is tomorrow. Angels Anonymous is going to be down at Danforth Street at 9 o'clock. I'll be there. A lot of other people will be there. Get involved. I believe around noon, and I could be wrong, but you want to double check on that. But at noon, I believe they're going to be meeting up at the Kennedy Park pavilion there, and they're going to be talking and having hot dogs and food, and everybody will be over there, I'm sure. So enjoy yourself, and hopefully nobody
Just paying
litters
for those hot dogs. No, I'm looking.
and hopefully nobody litters
I'm kidding.
after us cleaning up the entire city. I hope
Right.
that there's very large bags of trash that people are throwing their stuff in. I don't care if they're purple.
And
or not, I
for
really don't.
those who can't maybe make it to any of the actual cleanups to meet up with everybody else, clean outside of your house.
Yeah.
Walk down, Norbit does it all the time. Pick up a bag, clean up your
Yes.
neighborhood, sweep the street outside. Who the hell cares?
Yes.
Clean up.
Yep. And in 2 weeks, do also want to mention that Angels Anonymous will also be having a comedy night Friday, May 27th. It's a dinner and comedy show. Tickets are $30 if you're going to go. If you can't really stay for the comedy and you just want to grab some food, some really awesome caserla, you can come in for $15. We do have some great comedians. We're going to have some great raffle prizes. Starts at 6. Show will go until about 10:30. Come on down, support Angels Anonymous if you can. It'd be great to see you.
So I have to have a little tiny discussion about our situation here, City Talk Fall River. There will not be any changes to how we run our show at all, other than this. About 2 weeks ago, we played Prince songs and the whole show got muted. Had a nice show, completely muted for about 3 hours worth. And that was because we played Prince music, and his the way he sets up his copyright situation is he shuts you
play it.
right. He shuts you down. Our whole episode was shut down. Yeah. So our whole episode was shut down, which brings me to another conversation I had with a friend named Noah, who is now going to be airing recordings of our show through TuneIn. And because of
Through
that,
the TuneIn radio app.
yeah, the TuneIn radio app. So, and that's something that we used to be on when we were on BCC. So I was very excited to have this offered to me by my friend Noah, and he's going to play recordings of our show, of our podcast on the TuneIn app at specific times of the day, like 3 o'clock in the afternoon or things like that. And that's coming in the future. But because of this, and because of what we talked about with the Prince situation, I felt as though, and I talked to my co-hosts
Your
here,
colleagues.
yeah, my colleagues here, that we should probably start playing music that's not copywritten. That we should start playing music that's not copywritten. So therefore, we're going to be playing some regular music that is not copywritten now, and so that way we can just have no worries at all that will be shut down for the entire episode just for a 5-minute or a 2-minute song. So that being said, I don't know if you're going to like this music. You can turn it off after this, but we're just going to play some uncopywritten music for the rest of the time being. Have a great weekend, everybody. Get involved. Do something. Thank you to Pam LeBeau for calling in.
And love each other.
Yeah. And Nikki said love each other.
And love your city.
Yeah.
Love yourself.
Love your city. Don't be bullied into buying anything for the city unless you want to buy it. All right, we're just going. We're just going.
Buy the bag.
Yeah. All right, have a great day, everybody.
Don't eat steak.